Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another CDC PH live stream. The guy who's supposed to be hosting right now is Francis Abraham, who's taking a nice drink of water there. Good evening, Francis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to CDC PH live stream number 6. Di ba? Number 6 na tayo, Mari.
Seven na yata ito eh.
Are we on 7th? Yeah, we're
Actually,
on
let
the
me check.
7th.
But anyway, in the meantime, to Francis's left is Doc Randy Nicolas. Not a new face to CDC PH viewers, but welcome, Doc Randy.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you very much, Francis. Good to be here.
Okay,
Yeah.
not quite beneath Doc Randy is Doc Iggy Bayani, suki ng live stream. Good evening, Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah, sawang-sawa na kayo sa akin. Welcome, Randy, my good friend. We
Yeah.
go way, way back.
And
Sa
Ah,
bahay niya, kumakain pa kami ng chippy sa bahay niya. Magpasopli-soplis lang kami. That far
UP
back.
days. UP days na ba ito?
yan na
UP
naman si
days?
Mr.
Yeah.
UP.
So,
And just showing us
UP.
once again his impeccable timing, Doc Homer Lim.
Yes. We were talking about Doc Homer and his fruit at the back. Ano ba yan? Bagong mutation nga ba yan ng
Doc,
coronavirus? Yung
what
nasa
is that
likod mo?
picture behind you?
Yeah, bagong mutation niya ng COVID, oh.
Ah,
And it's a fruit, is it? Is it a fruit or a flower?
It's a,
it
a flower. It's a flower.
it's a
flower.
flower.
It's a
Okay.
flower of what?
Yeah. It's a flower. I don't
Hindi
know
siya
what you call it, but it's a
What do you
flower.
call it?
it was there when he got there.
Okay, just recapping. Dr. Homer's specialty is geriatrics and cancer. Doc Iggy is an orthopedic surgeon, while Doc Randy Nicolas is a cardiac and pediatric surgeon. If I'm not mistaken, Doc Randy, is that correct?
Yes, that's basically correct. Yeah.
All right. The star of
Wow.
this episode, Francis, is Doc Randy because he's going to be talking about Leronlimab, which is a
Oh.
monoclonal antibody, and that's all I know. Okay, everything else is
You lost me the first word, monoclonal. Okay. So, in other words, ladies and gentlemen, it's a treatment. It's a medicine that will fight COVID and make you well. Oh, yan. Diba?
Yeah. You
Now,
probably heard about it doon kay Donald Trump when he was sick
Okay.
of
oh,
that. But a similar monoclonal antibody that I won't have to mention the name. But that
baka
is
ano
what
eh.
this is a better one. So nahuli lang
Oh,
si Donald Trump. Yeah.
okay.
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 So, Doc Randy, can you explain to us how you got involved in this COVID discussion? You're a surgeon, and so it's not something that should appear on your radar, but somehow you got involved in looking at COVID treatment options. How did you get involved?
Maybe the same way Iggy and Homer got involved. We just started reading because of the massive free time that we suddenly encountered. Most of our personnel in the cardiovascular operating room were realigned to COVID centers. So for a while, during March and April, most of our surgeries were canceled or postponed. And people don't know about this, but we actually don't know how many children or how many urgent coronary patients that needed surgery actually just passed away because they couldn't have surgery. And this is unknown statistics that we need to determine. So during the downtime, I started reading and got interested in therapeutics because everybody was talking about vaccines and everything. So I said, leave the vaccines to them and just let's concentrate on therapeutics. I sort of retrieved an old paper from the initial SARS epidemic of 2002. It was dated May of 2005. It's a publication in European Journal of I think it's Experimental Medicine, but it was identifying already the precursor inflammatory molecule that was responsible for causing deaths. Because people need to realize you do not die from the virus, you die from the cytokine storm that the virus may elicit. Eventually, a majority, 99 plus percent of patients will recover from the virus with just supportive therapy and with precautionary medications. Only a very few will really go into cytokine storm. And this is what interested me. Also, cytokine storm seems to be also the a an interest of mine because as a heart surgeon, when you're put on the heart lung machine, you do incite already a cascade of inflammation. Anybody put on the heart lung machine will experience this, and we know we know from training that the longer you are on the heart lung machine, the higher chance of you developing cytokine storm. So that in itself also got me interested in the pathophysiology of cytokine storm, and that's what led me to look at therapeutics for COVID-19.
Yeah, and you are also there's another issue here that's involved in your particular situation. You are immunosuppressed yourself, correct?
Yes, I am. In 2011, I sort of had one in a million. My nephrologist says, you have IgA nephropathy, and it's one in a million shot that you get acute exacerbation and eventually go into acute renal shutdown. And that's what happened to me. One day I was fine. I had normal labs. 6 months later, I was on the transplant list. So I eventually had preemptive kidney transplant, and that was in 2012 February. So I'm going on my ninth year already,
Congratulations.
and I'm immunosuppressed for life.
Wow.
So I need to take immunosuppression so I don't reject the kidney that I sort of borrowed from my sister.
Wow.
Shout out to my sister who donated my kidney. So
Yeah.
so I have to protect myself.
So how have you been doing that, Doc, all throughout? Because you not quit your practice, you're still doing your work. So how do you prepare yourself for exposure?
Yeah, the immunosuppression medications right now are very, very good. And since my match was was exceptional, my dosage for immunosuppression is very low, and I chose a non-steroid based immunosuppression. So I didn't want the systemic effects of steroids. So I chose a regimen that would not have to be steroid based. So now I'm living life as normal as I can. Actually I don't even wear a mask going to PGH anymore. I really don't have to anymore. And my incidence of flu or any other illness is the same as even before I was immunosuppressed.
Wow.
Of course, there's a precaution now because I can't have a flu vaccine yearly, mainly because of the possibility of me getting the flu just with the vaccination. So that is also a red flag for me, especially with these rollout of COVID vaccines. Uh, People in my situation are at a disadvantage.
I know Francis is dying to talk about
Okay.
vaccines, but that's not the topic conversation. But our two docs, Doc Iggy, Doc Homer, please feel free to jump in at any time.
Uh,
But our
Yeah.
central topic for
Yeah.
discussion today is
Yeah.
Leronlimab.
Yeah.
Leronlimab.
Central to Leronlimab is the cytokine storm.
Yeah.
As Randy has mentioned, it is not actually going to kill the virus, the leronlimab, but it will stop the virus from causing a cytokine storm. So parang
Oh,
you
okay.
made a lion into a pussycat, so to speak.
So
If
so this
if you
is
have
early
if you
treatment.
have that, well,
Is it
it's
early treatment or
it's a
in
way of
hospital?
preventing the cytokine storm, or even if it has started, it will stop the progression of the cytokine storm. Am I right, Randy?
Okay.
Actually, yeah, that's correct. Actually, Francis, to answer your question, there was a initial study, a phase 2 trial. It's called the CD10 trial, and it was done for mild moderate, and it showed two things or remarkable things. Of course, it was just a 75 patient study, but it showed that one, it prevented severe symptoms from occurring. So people who got it, they call it the NEWS2, NEWS2 score. So it's a NEWS2 score, and it showed a statistically significant decrease in the NEWS2. So meaning to say, if you translate that, it means that significant majority of the patients receiving leronlimab no longer progress to severe symptoms. And the number two thing that it showed was even safer than placebo. Imagine a drug that's even safer than a placebo. That was remarkable. But they didn't stop there because mild moderate, we know mild moderate, we can usually treat very very supportively. Especially you have hydroxychloroquine down the pipeline, you have ivermectin available, you have your uh, zinc and vitamin C, vitamin D. Uh, what we're very interested in is the subset of patients that go into cytokine storm. And these are
Yeah.
the patients that are very, very critical, severe critical symptoms. Many of them are on a ventilator. Many of them are on dialysis. Some are on ECMO. ECMO is a it's called
Extracorporeal.
extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, meaning to say you're connected to an artificial lung that will help you breathe because you no longer can be ventilated adequately. Many of these patients end up like this, and there are a number of patients who have recovered. You go to the internet and you'll see patients like Miss Moffat in UCLA who recovered. She's a liver transplant, uh, uh, young lady from California, post liver transplant, and she recovered from severe critical symptoms of COVID with leronlimab. There are so many remarkable anecdotal testimonies on YouTube and on the internet of people recovering dramatically from COVID-19 severe critical symptoms.
Francis, we got a slew of comments here to tackle, but before we do
Yeah.
that, can we ask Dr. Randy to let us know, tell us where leronlimab is in the stages of getting FDA approval and any other approvals you require before you can put it to market?
Yeah, that's very important because leronlimab to this date is the only therapeutic that has ever completed a phase 3 trial in severe critical COVID-19. It's the only one. Um, Iggy mentioned, Dr. Akbayani mentioned an antibody regimen that um, President Donald Trump received. That study was terminated by the Data Safety Monitoring Board of the U.S. because it
Oh.
showed no benefit in reducing mortalities. Eli Lilly's antibody was also terminated. Mesoblast, their study on severe critical was terminated because they all did not show preliminary benefit in reducing mortality. However, leronlimab was the data was reviewed because it's a blinded, double-blinded study. But the data
Uh-huh.
was reviewed by the Data Safety Monitoring Board, who has authority to see unblinded data. So it was reviewed at the 50% stage, 75% enrollment, and leronlimab was allowed to continue unmodified. So in December 16, I believe, they enrolled their final patient. So 394 patients enrolled into the study. This is a
Do
phase
all
3
phase
in
three?
severe critical COVID, the only
Okay.
therapeutic to complete it.
Did may I ask a question? If remdesivir didn't it pass through the same criteria, Doctor Randy?
I'm afraid remdesivir never completed a phase 3. Yeah, actually, the Solidarity trial, they were part of the Solidarity trial where they showed absolutely no benefit. So, to answer your question, it has no benefit. The only
So
benefit
perhaps
that showed remdesivir it seemed to decrease your hospital stay by 4 days. it had absolutely no impact on mortality. Meaning to say, whether you got it or not, your mortality rate would be the same. It
Oh, it's
wouldn't
good.
change.
It's yeah, it's good. Then I mentioned UP because you have classmates in UP
Yes.
who consult with the who get or act as consultants to the IATF and the DOH. Perhaps they can point this out. This very important fact. Let's go back to Leronlimab
Yeah,
and
because
the
the
phase three
reason
trials. Yeah,
Francis brought that up is even today, even as of yesterday,
it is
we
being
heard of a
pushed.
patient who's still being
Yes,
given remdesivir.
Yeah.
And if it has no benefit, but it will cost you how many thousands of pesos?
150,000 pesos.
Why even bother?
Correct.
Okay, my question would be when I'm steering a little bit off track here, but if why should we trust the solidarity trial on remdesivir if they failed so miserable with their HCQ test? They overdosed on
Doc Homer will
HCQs.
have the answer to that, I'm sure.
Please
And
feel
even
free,
Doc
Doc Homer.
Iggy.
Uh, can we not comment?
Okay,
Okay.
would you like me to comment on your behalf,
Yeah, please
Doc
go
Homer?
ahead.
I know
Please
the
go.
answer to that as a journalist, as a person who investigates. Okay, now the World Health Organization over the Solidarity trials, the HEQ, were patients were overdosed by as much as 6 to 8 times. Therefore, it wouldn't have been effective, and I believe it was given late in the day to already
Late
sick
stage.
and old patients. Okay, so the efficacy of HCQ, if I understand, is on the early stages before the cytokine storm sets in. This is according to Dr. Love Francis Abraham. No, this is according to what other doctors have told me. Okay, is that right, Dr. Homer?
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
He's a good student. Huh? Okay,
yeah.
Gio Zippo had a question. What did the phase two results say? This, of course, as regards leronlimab. Is this a medical thing, or since we're already at phase three, or you completed phase three, why would we need to know about phase two?
That's an interesting question. The phase two trial was based. The US FDA will require a proof of concept, meaning to say you need to provide proof that in fact leronlimab does work. So the proof was in the initial emergency investigational new drug use in the US. And they enrolled in several centers across the US, Montefiore, UCLA. You have centers in Atlanta, all across the US. I believe when they ended it, they it involved 18 different centers in the US. But in the initial use, 75 patients, they showed a remarkable uh, uh, drop in mortality among severe critical. In some centers, as high as 70% survival benefit. And this was the proof of concept that the US FDA was looking for. They immediately said go straight to a phase three, no longer need to do a phase two for severe critical. So they went straight to a phase three and started enrolling. And they started enrolling, I believe, in September, I believe, or August, and they finished in December, December 16th.
Yeah, because that's a very significant number. 70% is a very remarkable number.
Mhm.
You would be happy if you could even say 10%, and we might even just finish phase two and go with phase three. But if you have 70%, it's like 7 out of 10 of the one we almost are sure that would die. Suddenly, you have a medicine that would help 7 of those 10 people that would die.
Your test
Okay,
results.
for the benefit of,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Mary.
No, go ahead.
For the benefit of ordinary people like me, 7 out of 10. When you talk about these patients or people who have tested the drug, these are people who already are in the stage of the cytokine storm.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Not those who are mild symptoms, no. This was this was this was the EIND, the Emergency Investigation New Drug. It's like a compassionate special permit here in the Philippines.
Okay.
So a drug that is under investigation or an experimental drug, not being used for, but has shown to in some patients to be of benefit, then they can apply for an EIND, and it was only for the sick, the really sick patients, so, COVID-19 patients. So those were the
So it seems
patients
that
already on a ventilator, already on
okay.
dialysis.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So these are yeah. It shines in late
Yeah.
treatment. It seems that it shines when the drug shines when the patient is already
Severely ill.
on the late stages. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
very impressive.
Yeah,
And
one of the doctors who initiated it in the U.S. was the head of the lung transplant unit in Montefiore, a doctor by the name of Harish Sitaraju, and his interest in the cytokine storm stemmed back from the H1N2 pandemic in the U.S. I believe that was in 2012. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he lost a lot of his transplant patients during that epidemic in the U.S., and that's what got him interested in trying to treat the cytokine storm and identifying which molecule had to be targeted for this.
I
Doctor,
have a question, Randy.
Yeah, sure.
Would since is it possible that this drug will also stop any cytokine storm regardless of the virus?
That is a very interesting question, Iggy. You know, there's a there's a paper I dug up in published in 2006, I believe. It shows that cytokine storm can actually happen in RSV infections, respiratory syncytial virus
Virus, yeah.
infections, which is also a viral lung infection. And they showed that the precursor for the cytokine storm in that particular virus was also the same precursor for that results in cytokine storm in COVID-19. And that molecule is called RANTES, RANTES. We just It's easy to remember it by its code name, which is CCL5, and that's the
Okay na rin yung
precursor
rantis eh.
for. Yeah, RATIS means regulated on activation normal T cell secretion, expression and secretion. That's what it means, RATIS. But
Yeah.
it's a signaling protein that seems to signal, macrophages and T cells are inflammatory, are defense, immune cells in our defense system, and they express CCL5 in order to call for something like calling for backup. It's like when you're overwhelmed with like, for example, if the police are overwhelmed with some criminal elements, they'll call for backup. This is how the cells call for backup.
Yeah,
And
parang ano, Randy, you'll understand me. Broken arrow.
oh yeah, that's right.
is the movie?
You'll
Okay. Okay.
understand me.
The movie. Yeah.
Educate us on the broken arrow
Drop the
thing.
bomb on me.
Uh,
So
Private
if
jokes
the
here?
what
enemy
does it?
is
I well,
already
you lost
there,
us.
no, it's in the military parlance yun eh, na
Ah.
if the
Okay.
enemy is within your vicinity, drop the bomb
Yeah.
on me.
Okay.
Drop the bomb.
Okay.
Parang yan, press the button, drop the bomb on me. It's like that. The cytokine storm has to be triggered because the
Yeah.
body is overwhelmed.
Okay. But the cytokine storm, the way I understand it, doesn't it? Doesn't is it? It happens when your own system destroys your own cells,
Correct.
because is that
Uh,
basically what happens?
maybe unintentionally because it's really an
Yes,
inflammatory thing.
because
And
it over
you
yeah.
might think of it like a severe allergy.
Uh huh.
Allergies are actually the source of that is a defense mechanism, but it becomes overly reactive. So it will
Okay.
tend
So
to kill you, in
destroy
fact.
your own, kill you. In
Yeah.
fact, yeah, destroy your own self or
If
cells. No.
imagine yung blood vessels that supply our lungs with oxygen, from outside going to the lungs, become inflamed, and it can't go in the lungs. That's
Okay.
what usually is the cause of death. So why is it inflamed? There is a storm, and it was not really the intention of the cytokine storm to kill the host, but it's an overreaction, so to speak.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Now, is the med available in the Philippines now, Doc Randy?
It's available actually under compassionate
Compassionate
special
use.
permit. Yeah. So
Compassionate use, yeah.
what
CSP.
what yeah what the patient needs to do is if the patient desires to have leronlimab available for them, then they'll have to coordinate with their doctor. The doctor will have to fill up a CSP form that is issued by the Philippine FDA, and they can course it through the local partner here, which is Chiral Pharmaceuticals, and they have a point person in Chiral Pharmaceuticals who will file it for the on behalf of the patient with the Philippine
Oh,
FDA.
that's
I
nice.
I'll
think
say that
Sorry,
Nice to
with the
know,
Philippine
Maria.
FDA, right?
yes,
I
correct.
think
And
we
Because the
have
Philippine
to put
FDA needs to,
the contact. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think because the doctors might listen, so I think they might need that contact
okay, we'll
information.
Yeah.
I
we'll
think
post it once
that's
the
critical.
video
That's
is
Yeah,
critical.
uploaded
Yeah.
on YouTube.
That's very important for us,
Mm.
Mari, because
Yep.
sometimes, like when they call us, like people have been calling me regarding some treatment, and I refer them to Doc Comer, no. But sometimes they
Late
already tell
stage.
me their parents or their father is in the hospital and is in pneumonia already that stage.
Right.
So
Intubated,
Intubated.
critical
almost
stage.
is going to be intubated, and I always lose hope and say, "Oh my God, why did you only come to me now?" Apparently, we have something up our sleeves again, another atomic bomb that will kill the
Another
kill
Can we
the
say
another
that
thing.
Can we say that
Actually, Francis, not an atomic
oh,
bomb, but a series of snipers who just take out
oh, yung galing,
the
mas maganda.
you know,
Ninja,
if you think about
ninja
an
sniper,
atomic bomb, you're dropping an atomic bomb, you have a lot of collateral damage.
Collateral
patay
damage.
lahat.
Here,
collateral
we do
damage?
not want collateral damage. That's
So
the reason why.
targeted again, focus protection
Let me,
on a
let me.
molecular scale.
I'll even be bold to say that we are
Mhm.
looking at entering a new phase in medicine,
Wow.
something
Oh
called
wow,
targeted precision
Wow.
medicine.
oh
And
wow.
you're looking at the introduction of maybe medications that will will not benefit big pharma
Yeah.
at all. So yeah,
Well,
Wala bang
So
while you're
wala
on
bang
that,
if I
let me
may
ano?
just
add,
let me just
if I
pop in
may
this
add,
question from these
Yes,
comments.
pop in the
Will Big
question.
Pharma play a role in stopping the startup?
Ayan.
I don't know. They might. But
that is
anyway, I'd like to add just kay Randy na you've heard it here first at CDCPH.
That's right.
Wow.
Breaking
And
news.
we're
First,
honored.
probably many people were not aware of hydroxychloroquine
That's right.
and now ivermectin.
Right.
You heard it
Uh,
here first at CDCPH. And
yes,
then the
Doc
focus
Randy,
protection, you heard
yes.
it
Right.
first here. Now we
Great
have
medical
Randy
declaration.
Nicolas with Leronlimab. You heard it
Right.
first here
Right.
in
At
the
saka Doc
Philippines at
Okay.
Randy,
least.
Let's just
track record.
jump back
Pinagtatawanan kami ng ibang
really
doktor.
quickly.
I'm sorry.
Doc, for the CSP, they go to their doctor. The doctor files with the Philippine FDA. What does the Philippine FDA do next?
Yeah, the Philippine
Okay.
FDA's responsibility is to check the veracity of the
Request.
identity of the patient requiring leronlimab.
Yeah.
They need to check, make sure that it's going to be used compassionately for the indication that is written on the application.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and
And Doc
I
Randy is
was
already in communication with the DOH, right, Randy?
with the FDA, yes, and they had
FDA, yeah.
assured me, they can get as long as the paperwork is in order and everything is in order. Um,
Wow, good news. Good
within
news.
24 48 hours, you can have the drug approved already for use. So
So
I
wait.
was assured also by the principal in the US that they will allot um, a significant amount to the Philippines. And this is critical because the production of monoclonal antibodies requires a special facility, and there are just a very, very few in the world. The biggest, perhaps, is Samsung Biologics in South Korea. and perhaps maybe also AGM in Japan. There's also a big production manufacturing center in the US. But all in all, if you take every single manufacturer for biologics worldwide, you will still have a very limited supply of this drug. That's the reason why I've been working so hard to try to get this drug approved in the Philippines because I want at least an allotment for the country.
Doc, if I
Wow.
Oh,
remember
that's
correctly,
that's all.
there was an amount given. It was 500,000 doses?
I think it's just 200,000 which was
200,000.
committed initially to the
That
Philippines.
that
And this is
that
out of
that.
1.4 million vials that are available for the
Uh,
entire
wow.
year of 2020
Wow.
worldwide.
What?
We are
And
blessed.
And
Doc, can
that's
I? Yeah. Can I ask a question, Doc? What about the What about how many doses do you need? Does a patient need, a COVID patient, to
you'd be surprised at the answer because
during the
the
course of his?
drug,
Yeah.
yeah, the drug is given subcutaneously. It doesn't even need
What?
an
what
IV infusion. You can give it just like an insulin shot, and it's given every 7 days. And most of the patients, if I'm not mistaken, approximately around 85 to 88% of patients will respond with just 2 doses, and
wow.
yeah,
Now,
some will require a third dose, but most will just
Okay.
require 2 doses.
sorry to be so particular, but from the issuance of the CSP, FDA approves and sends it to sorry, Cytodine in the US, correct?
Um, no,
No, Chiral.
the FDA will guess. The FDA will course it through Chiral.
Chiral.
Chiral will communicate with Cytodine.
Okay. And then where is the actual medicine coming from?
That's another very good
Okay.
question. Cytodine has most of their production in South Korea.
Okay.
Samsung Biologics and Samsung Biologics, if they have stock in South Korea, it can be here within 4 hours as long as the flight
Wow.
is available.
Okay. That was my
Yeah.
concern. Between the request being made and the actual delivery, it's not exactly a week. We're not talking a week. We're not even talking 48 hours. We're talking 4 hours if it comes from South Korea. That's fantastic.
Yes, as long as the flight is available, yes, it can be here within 4 hours.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay. Can
Another
I ask?
comment from
Side
Can I
Thomas.
ask a
effects.
question?
Let me
Okay. Please.
just read this comment really quick. Thomas Smith says, "The Philippines people will be very fortunate to obtain Leronlimab for its people." Yes, thank you,
Thomas
Cytodine.
Smith.
Thank you, Doc Randy and Chiral for doing this work. Okay, Doc Homer.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, has there been any post survey or post follow up after COVID, um, with regards to symptoms, like what we call the long COVID symptoms,
Long haulers,
long
you'd be
COVID,
surprised.
like
Yeah,
yes, yes,
Long
that's
haulers.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
long
my question,
Long
haulers.
because
haulers. Yeah.
I could see that this could actually kill the long,
Yeah.
the symptoms of the haulers, especially those who had severe COVID.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct, Dr. Homer. As we speak right now, there is a protocol that had been submitted to the US FDA specifically for COVID long haulers. And they're going to start another study using Leronlimab, a weekly Leronlimab dose at home. It can be self-administered, and they're going to study the effects on long haul patients. So long haulers are patients with lingering lingering symptoms even after recovering from COVID. Some say they have fogginess. Some will have some difficulty in breathing. Some will just say they just absolutely have no energy. So these are some patients that we really need to address because these patients cannot re-enter a society because of their symptoms. So we really need to address these population of patients as well.
All right. Another comment from Burke Hill. Awesome. I'm glad they got it, referring to the Philippines. I hope America is next. Of course, this is an American product, so America is getting it first, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, Yeah, it's fortunate for Americans because, you know, I was reviewing how the molecule was discovered by a doctor named Dr. Madden, and his how he discovered um, CCR5 inhibition and the potential benefits and all the all the possible applications medically or clinically. It's just amazing how much people can accomplish as long as they set their minds and their hearts to a certain goal, a certain task. Money aside, you know, uh, personal ambitions aside. If you really want to help people, there's no limit to what the person can do.
Okay, question from Top John 506. Has Leronlimab been approved for use in the Philippines so far? It's only for compassionate use, correct?
That's correct. The requirement of the Philippine FDA for emergency use authorization requires that the country of origin from where the drug originated has already issued an EUA itself, or an EUA from another regulatory uh, an equivalent regulatory organization of another country. For example, the UK MHRA or the Canadian FDA. That will also work.
That's right. Jenard has a sort of a follow-up comment, and no motivation to approve it. How can we motivate the DOH or the FDA to get it approved as soon as possible?
Well, I understand where the FDA and the DOH is with approval of investigational drugs. People are still reeling, and the memories of people run deep with regards to the Dengbaksha um, uh, issue and things like that. So there, there, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of reading and a lot of investigation just to get all the information right. And unfortunately, it takes political will as well to approve it.
But let me point out that unlike the vaccines are to be given to healthy individuals. Leronlimab will be given to those who are sick or even about to die.
Yes,
So there's a big difference about what rules you should enforce, because if you're not going to give anything else, you should give leronlimab. That's what it boils down to, unlike vaccines.
There
correct.
you go again, Doc,
Um, you
mentioning
know,
vaccines.
yeah,
Well,
No,
Dr. Iggy,
vaccines are okay. I
it
have to
is.
say that vaccines are excellent option for prevention or reaching herd immunity, but it's still under EUA. So we're still also waiting
Yes.
for the phase four's results.
It's
yeah.
funny that you said, Dr. Iggy, that if you cannot give anything, you give leronlimab. But that's the case with ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. The doctors have not been giving any form of early treatment
Correct.
protocol, and still
Exactly.
they reject hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. So I often ask doctors, apart from nothing, what did you give to your patient? So
The bill.
the bill.
Heath Cobb,
Well,
Heath
they
Cobb has
they
a
still
comment.
offer steroids, like pulmonary support things, and now they, as we mentioned, remdesivir doesn't really save lives, so it's
Yeah,
not a good
yeah,
option at all.
Right. So Heath Cobb
yeah.
comments, gentlemen, South Carolina here. Thank you for this confirmation. Kevin Hayes writes, if the CD12 results are clearly positive and the FDA does not authorize use of leronlimab, will the Philippines give approval? Of course, this is beyond
Uh,
Doc
that
Randy's.
Mm.
that is a very important question that we need to invite maybe the Director
Mhm.
General of the Philippine FDA for to answer. But that will take a lot of political will just to do that. But I am hopeful
Mhm.
that we can, if you, I discovered, I've been working on trying to get the Ronlimab approved for the past, May, 6, 7 months. So I've discovered if you knock on as many doors you just need one door to open up for you, and you never know that may be the right door. So, yep, it'll if it doesn't get approved in the U.S., we'll knock on every door here and get leronlimab approved in the Philippines, no doubt.
Thomas follows up. Have the Philippines FDA approved ASAP before the U.S. takes all the vials, very limited supply of this amazing molecule. We've been promised 200,000, so hopefully
Yeah.
they'll be well used.
It's different when Operation Warp Speed suddenly says, you can't do that with your 200,000 for the Philippines. It has to be allocated primarily for the U.S. And if they say that, then we won't see leronlimab until maybe early 2023.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Day and Night Party Rental LLC writes, Leronlimab EIND patients, US were the sickest critical patients. Many have had organ transplants on ventilators and ECMO.
Correct.
I I think
Yeah.
that we're missing one question. I think
Yep.
very important to ask is
How
which
much?
I have no idea. How many people actually are on have had already a transplant? Do we have a number? Because that
Um,
that gives an idea of who really would need something like that.
yeah. In the initial review of um, EID patients out of Montefiore, all of these patients were transplant patients, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe there were 11 patients. All of them were transplant patients. And of all the 11, I believe seven did very well. All 11 patients, there was a very elegant study out of the initial EID patients, and it was done by Dr. Bruce Patterson. Dr. Bruce Patterson, he used to be the head of urology in Stanford until he put up his own cellular diagnostic company in California called IncelDX, and he did a very elegant uh, analysis, uh, serum analysis of these patients who recovered, and even the patients who did not recover. He reviewed the serum assays of all these patients, and he viewed the the T4, T8 counts, the phenotype, macrophage phenotypes, the ratios, even activity, T cell activity. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised that when you enter critical COVID, your T cells become absolutely sluggish, meaning to say their ability to uh, to operate as an immune modulating cell is markedly hampered. And Dr. Patterson showed that on day 3 up to day 7 from initial dose of leronlimab, so many of these parameters were already almost corrected. T4, CD4, CD12
Okay.
ratios were almost restored to normal. You have macrophage phenotypes going from a pro-inflammatory to an anti-inflammatory state. So you have all these remarkable um, laboratory parameters that were proven that leronlimab was effective in producing.
Yeah.
Burke Hill says after unblinding results, they will boost global supply.
Oh, that is what I'm hoping for.
James Devaney
Yeah.
says, Dr. Patterson, you were mentioning earlier, Dr. Randy, Dr. Patterson stated this drug should be stockpiled for any kind of virus, which leads me to my other question. You are also, it's also been found effective in treating some forms of cancer and HIV, correct?
Um, the, the, the initial design of leronlimab was for viral entry blocker in HIV. HIV uses the, the complex receptor of CCR5 with CCR4 subunit to enter a cell. It cannot infect a person until it enters the target cell. And what leronlimab does, it binds the extracellular component of the CCR5 receptor, and it blocks the ability of the HIV virus to enter a T cell or a target cell. And there is a whole lot of patients who are only on leronlimab, and they have shown to be virally suppressed for as long as a year, only on leronlimab. Meaning to say they do not have to take the Gilead medications, the HART medications that the big manufacturer in the U.S. is responsible for
Yeah.
treating HIV. They're no longer on that, and they feel much better. They don't have the side effects of the regimen for AIDS.
Yeah.
So that's remarkable.
Interest,
And
interesting.
and
Yeah, sure.
yeah, and the studies you mentioned, Mari, on cancer, they found that in metastatic cancer cells that they were expressing the CCR5 receptor uh, in a whole lot of other solid tumors, like for example, triple negative breast cancer, prostate cancer, you're talking about colonic cancer, pancreatic cancer, a whole lot. They have a basket trial of 22 different solid tumors for leronlimab treatment. So you're talking about stage 4 cancer, even possibly being treated with leronlimab, but combination of leronlimab and chemotherapy.
See,
Yeah.
docs, this
One
is
one
why
of the
this is why
one of
Francis
the
and I
thing
like doing these shows, because you guys make us look so much smarter than we really are.
yeah.
Nah.
One of the things that
I
I've
agree.
noticed when we were talking to some doctors from Cebu, that was I think 2 months ago. They said that many of the deaths, probably this is true, not even outside of Cebu, are the patients who are on dialysis. Basically, they are on renal failure patients already. And what do you think is the role of leronlimab on these patients?
There were in the initial EIND. I'm sorry if I keep on mentioning the patients from the EIND because that's the only data I have. Until now, I haven't seen the CD12 data because it's still blinded. Uh, Many of these patients were on dialysis. Dialysis was instituted when they entered a critical or severe COVID state. So they were not on dialysis before COVID, but they had to be on dialysis when they entered severe critical stages. Many of these patients, when they recovered, they were off dialysis. And you need to review the initial study by Bruce Patterson. It even explains how microemboli form with with uh, with leronlimab and ending, and these the microemboli is responsible for end organ damage as well. That's what also contributes to the multi-organ failure that most of our patients who have passed away suffer from. So that's what, yeah. So I believe that the leronlimab can help, but not certainly not on patients who are already on dialysis before contracting the disease.
All right. Heath has another question. Will the Philippine, is that not showing? Okay, I'm having trouble here. Francis, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I
my
can. But
screen is flashing.
Yeah, so is mine. We're having some big farm
Technical
at work here.
difficulties. Let's continue the conversation, but our conversations are okay, I believe.
All right,
Uh,
let's see if it fixes
Up,
itself then.
I cannot hear Doc Randy now. Up, we're
Yeah.
having technical
Oh my
difficulties.
gosh. All right.
What we can do, I believe, is to invite them again, and let's do another. What do you call this? Right away,
we'll put up
rebroadcast. Is
another
that
link. Yeah.
possible?
Yeah.
all right.
Where will
Yep.
they look for the link? We'll post it on the same
We
thread in which the original, or just watch the YouTube channel, I guess.
no.
Is it-
We I need the link. You'll send the link to us?
yeah, I'll send you the. It's the. It will. Yeah, it will be a new link for the new. We'll have to I'll just have to
Okay.
reboot just to make sure that it's not on my end here. So just wait for
Yeah,
the link.
ladies and
Go ahead.
yep,
Go ahead, Francis.
ladies and
All right.
gentlemen, we will be
I'll
back
just
on
I'll just
air
hang up for a while.
Yeah, we'll
in a
be
short while.
right back. Doc? Doc?